We'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order at 10:02. All those who are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any public comment for items not appearing on today's agenda? All right. Seeing none, I'd want to take a moment and reflect on last week's election, particularly all the people whose efforts made it possible to administer the election. First and foremost, the election staff, beginning with our Director of Elections, Melanie Bailey. From her first day on the job here in Center County, Melanie hit the ground running, and I'm very grateful for her ability to step in and oversee this election. Thank you to our full-time elections employees, Tish Stefanko, Jody Ned, and Laura Day, who spent hours upon hours managing registrations and logistics to allow the election to run smoothly. And thank you to Sharon Johnson for her expertise in handling all things vote by mail. We also have numerous temporary election and poll workers, too many to name, unfortunately, not close to 1,000, without whom our elections could not function. Thank you all for your contributions to ensure our democracy runs as it should. Second, law enforcement officers. Election night did come with an unprecedented hiccup, but law enforcement navigated the situation with grace and efficiency, allowing us to safely return to work during the election. Thank you to Deputies Casey Hoover, Garrett Rigg, and Peyton Hill, who are working security at the Willow Bank building throughout the night. Thank you to the 3 Pennsylvania State Police officers, 2 Spring Township Police Department officers, 2 Bellefonte Police Department officers, and Sheriff Brian Samsel, who all responded swiftly to ensure that the Willow Bank building was safe and secure. Sheriff Samsel said, "Great work by all involved to resolve the bomb threat and continue with the elections process," and I couldn't agree more. Thanks again, Sheriff. Everyone, especially in that moment of disruption, was committed to the security of the election. The law enforcement officers who worked to neutralize any threat to the process, the election staff and county staff who stayed to ensure all election materials remained under constant supervision. And I won't soon forget the image of Tina Conrath clinging to a police evidence bag of mail-in ballots, committed to not breaking the chain of custody as we returned from having the Willow Bank building swept by law enforcement. She even went as far to keep one hand on the bag as she struggled to remove her coat to go through security. Lastly, the administration team, my fellow commissioners, our county administrator, deputy administrators, and the county solicitor. I feel confident in the decisions we made for this election because I know we've discussed and thought through the election. And in each of these discussions, we've been guided by our commitment to the public of Center County, our devotion to democracy, and a resolve to running a secure election. Thank you, team, for sharing that commitment, devotion, and resolve with me and our country. Again, heartfelt thanks again. We'll move on to additions to the agenda.
Before we do,
Steve,
while we're on that thought, I would like to give a big shout out to the folks at Penn State.
Oh, yes.
Precinct 24 and 44,
Yep.
where literally thousands of individuals voted. Kathleen, Katie, Albert, Julian, and Mike from Penn State Government Outreach, PSU votes. Really was an amazing thing. This was the most flawless, I shouldn't say, flawless was probably not the right word.
No,
I would say
it
probably
went really well.
the most organized and well-run and really responsive election that we've ever had up there. And as the years go by and we get better and better at it, but Penn State really did a huge commitment. Our election workers did a huge commitment of making sure that that was a pretty well-run, and I would say the best yet, well-run election at the hub. And when you've got 7,654, give or take, electors coming through your place. It's a huge responsibility to make sure that that's all done properly, and it is the largest precinct in the state.
Yes.
And it's something that we take very seriously to make sure that it's run properly. And boy, they came through this year. So just while you're giving accolades, I want to say thank you.
And you would know, 21 general elections, Steve.
Yeah, about it.
All-time record for Center County. anything you wanted to add?
Yeah,
Commissioner
I would just
Concepcion?
echo these comments. We saw just incredible professionalism from from the beginning of this season as we've been preparing for the election, all the way through, what was always a really long day on Tuesday, but a little bit more stressful than usual with the required evacuation that we had to do at the end of the evening. But through it all, everyone remained very calm, committed to ensuring we carry out the election processes, as carefully and thoroughly as we always do. So, yeah, great work to everyone. And, I think, we were really fortunate to get many people in the community who were interested in helping out with the election this year, both in temporary staffing and poll workers. There was just, the community really stepped up to ensure that we were covered. So thank you to everyone.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Concepcion. Now we'll move on to additions to the agenda, and I think we have a small one that's election-related.
Yeah, I would like to ask that we add a motion to add CNET sponsorship for this afternoon and Thursday afternoon's election board meetings. And I think that can go with item I, CNET request. We have one CNET request there, but if we could add one to approve CNET sponsorship that would be for today and Thursday for the election.
Yeah, I'll second that addition.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to add an item under Section I, CNET requests for additional CNET broadcasts for the Tuesday and Thursday election board meetings. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. That item is added. All right, moving on to meeting minutes. Any changes needed to the minutes? No? All right.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the meetings held October 29th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the meetings held on October 29th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose nay. Motion carries. All right, we will move on to a resolution, and I believe Natalie's covering that.
Good morning.
Morning.
Before you is a resolution. It is specific to the local share account grant application process that is currently open through the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. This resolution outlines Center County government's desire to submit an application in partnership with CPI for the amount of $1 million for the Public Safety Training Center building proposal. The application, which is due November 30th, will outline the entirety of that project in hopes to be able to secure this LSA funding to continue to move forward with the desire to build that public safety training center at the site where our fire center is right now in Pleasant Gap with CPI. The center's hope is to expand training opportunities for both local EMS and fire and law enforcement, but also from a regional approach. We have a lot of individuals that come here through the process of writing this application. We are one of the few in the state that can offer the trainings that we do, and we really want to expand it based on the desire of our partnership with CPI. And so this grant hope is that we submit this for $1 million to go toward the overall construction costs of that project.
Great, thanks, Natalie. Yeah, the Center County Public Safety Training Center serves not just Center County, but up to 18 counties surrounding us. The next closest facility is in Lewistown, that's run by the state of Pennsylvania, and that one's booked close to a year in advance. The next closest centers of any size are in either Harrisburg or suburban Pittsburgh. So the commissioners have been very supportive of this to assist our emergency responders, and Commissioner Concepcion chairs that committee, so I'll pass it over to her.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie, for your work on this. And, we have a lot of support locally from emergency responders who can testify to the need that we have for local training space, to have that classroom space there, to be able to provide trainings both to local emergency responders within Center County, but also to those who come from, all around Center County, several counties away to attend these trainings. And, sometimes much of the time, these are volunteers who are taking their own time to attend training. So having spaces for them to do training nearby to home is really advantageous.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
I think it's all been said. I think it's a great program. Thank you for helping us complete this project, and this would go a long way to helping us in the construction of the new education center out there that would really serve fire, police, EMS, hazmat, right down the road, and plus a huge part of what that training site has done, and particularly in the area of economic development, is provide for industrial training for many of the local industries in the area that require updates and certifications, and it's been fantastic, the partnership that we've managed to create over the last number of years, and big shout out to the folks at CPI for working with us to make that all happen. So
Yeah.
hope we get the money.
Sounds good. Unless there's anything else, we'll take a motion then.
Okay, I'll move to adopt Resolution 14 of 2024.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to adopt resolution number 14 of 2024. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.
All right, and now Ray has a grant agreement with Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, this morning we would like your consideration for the authorization for the grant agreement with the PA Department of Environmental Protection for the 2025 season of the mosquito disease control program. The grant total is about $86,515 for January 1st through December 31st, although the actual season for monitoring and trapping mosquitoes is April through the end of September. So we would like to have that consideration. This also covers not only Center County, but Clearfield and Clinton counties.
And Ray, I believe the funding for Clearfield and Clinton does cover our expenses for servicing those areas.
Yes,
correct?
this is all staff hours and equipment that cover all three counties. Unfortunately, we have our mosquito disease coordinator retired, so we are looking for a new one for the season, so we will be advertising. I'd like to just announce that.
All right, and so that's roughly a part-time position while the weather's warm.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So for someone who likes the outdoors, nice job.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner
Pretty flexible.
Concepcion, comments, questions?
No, thanks for bringing this forward. It's pretty important.
Yeah. Commissioner Dershowitz?
Just one question. Do we know, and I'm probably hitting you off the cuff on this, do we know how many positive West Nile cases we had?
Off the top of my head, I believe it was around 6 to 7 positive. We did have one human case this year in Center County.
Oh,
Yeah, normally it's avian carried.
yeah. Yeah, that's not something you want to get. No.
So when we do announce those positives, we do put prescriptive measures within a press release so people are reminded what they need to do on their property to hold down those populations of mosquitoes.
When are you gonna start on the tick population?
Ticks start early, actually. That part of that April timeframe is when they start monitoring the ticks. Both the coordinator and the technician are actively monitoring throughout the season, but they start early.
They're still going strong right now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
those little buggers are,
Yeah.
we'll just let it go at that.
Right.
Practically indestructible.
Yeah. Well, this is, I think, especially important now with we saw this outbreak of equine encephalitis in the Northeast, which
Yeah.
didn't quite reach Pennsylvania, I think, but, all the states north and east of us had equine encephalitis cases, which are mosquito-borne and really dangerous, so.
And we'd like to thank the state legislature for funding this program and
Yes.
similar programs.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Unless there's anything else, we could take a motion.
I'll move to add the grant agreement with Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add the grant agreement with Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Ray.
Thank
And
you.
Now, someone else from planning, Coachy, will cover our liquid fuels and fee for local use schedule.
Yeah, we actually have a request to make a slight modification in the schedule for this year. It has to do with the commissioners' meeting. We had planned on bringing those recommendations for this year's liquid fuels funding to the commissioners for review on November 26th, but your meeting has been canceled that day. So we'll be pushing that back and bringing the staff recommendations to the commissioners on December 3rd. And then the commissioners have the opportunity to award those recommended projects on December 10th. So we're just essentially pushing your schedule back 1 week. We're in the concurrent review process, which will end today, so we'll have that information ready. It's just that your schedule has changed, so we need to adjust the liquid fuels approval schedule.
Great, thanks, Coach. And of course, we've been a little busy with budgets, elections, union negotiations, et cetera. So I haven't had a chance to go through that 100-plus pages yet.
We did have a significant number of applications this
Yeah.
year, and the amount that is requested is significant as well, too, so.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so
Usual.
we'll be presenting that to you, hopefully at the December 3rd meeting, if that works within your schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually substantially many times as much as the funding available. I think the liquid fuels has decreased to like 180,000 or something like that.
Yeah, last year's budget was $170,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we had well over $2 million in project requests.
yeah,
So it's quite a juggling,
yeah. Great, and it's 35 municipalities.
yes.
Yes.
It's all the municipalities in Center County, boroughs, townships, all the municipalities in Center County have the opportunity to apply.
All right. Commissioner Concepcion, additional comments or questions?
No, thanks for making this process very clear going forward.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
All good to go, thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
All
we
right.
just need an approval from that, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem.
Then I'll move to approve the 2025 fee for local use and liquid fuels updated schedule.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2025 fee for local use and liquid fuels updated schedule. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks,
Thank
Coachy.
you.
All right, now moving on to capital projects. I believe Jonathan and Richard are going to cover the first one about the solar renewable energy project up at the correctional facility.
Good morning. Before you, we're asking for your consideration of a notice, to provide notice to Solar Renewable Energy to purchase the solar array at the Center County Correctional Facility. Per the contract, we are required to provide a 180-day notice, so that time frame would be December 31st at the latest.
All right, and Richard, I think you have some of the financials behind that.
Yes, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Because the solar array went online in April 2020, we have 4 years of actual data to recalculate the original cost savings analysis that was used to make the decision in the first place. The following 4 components affect the savings compared to the purchasing electricity. The marketplace of conventional electricity, the value of the solar renewable energy credits that add additional revenue streams to offset the costs, the solar electricity generated, the actual energy production over time, and then also whether to buy or lease the array. And our analysis included the estimated annual maintenance cost if you intend to purchase the agreement, purchase the array. So the key findings from the updated analysis, the original cost savings was over a 25-year period was $2 million. Using the actual data, the revised projection savings, including the buyout option, is $3 million, an increase of $1 million. If you choose to continue the lease option, the estimate of savings is $1.6 million, which is 1.4 less than the buyout. So estimate is $3 million if you choose the buyout versus $1.6 million if you continue with the lease option. And then if you expanded the forecast over a 40-year period using the buyout option, the projected savings is $5.9 million.
Great, thanks for covering that, Richard. So obviously, if we're looking at continuing to lease it for 25 years, the savings is 1.6 million. If we buy it out, the savings is closer to 3 million. So I think that one's kind of a no-brainer right there. And then since the solar array is actually not decreasing the power it's giving us, so we were told it would go down 0.5% a year, and so far I don't think it's gone down at all. So the possibility that we might, under ideal circumstances, get 40 years out of it, which would then save the county almost $6 million, based on current electric rates, which if anything, they're going to keep probably going up at least the rate of inflation. I think that's been a big win for the county. Commissioner Concepcion, additional comments or questions?
Yeah, I think this just shows how important it can be to look at alternative sources of energy and what the cost savings can be for local governments. So it's a good example. And owning it ourselves clearly makes a significant difference in the savings, so that seems like a good decision to move forward with.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
What are maybe the folks out there that maybe don't appreciate or understand what the energy credits are? I think that.
All right.
Maybe a little explanation there of what that.
Sure. Do you want to?
Go ahead.
Oh, John can do that. Yeah, you were here from the beginning.
Sure. So renewable energy credits are something that you can use to claim that you are using carbon neutral energy for your facilities. If you don't wish to make that claim, you can sell those credits on the open market, and that allows another entity to come in and purchase the ability to claim that they are using a carbon neutral energy source. And that obviously has value in the form of credits. In Pennsylvania, it's higher than a lot of areas outside of the state. Credits in Pennsylvania can be anywhere from $30-ish to $45 a credit, versus out of state, they can be just a few dollars for a credit. So it's a very valuable commodity here in Pennsylvania.
So I guess my point is, you not only have the energy savings, but you also have the energy credits, which I'll have to say I didn't fully appreciate when this started, but I've seen it successfully applied, and I think I think it makes sense for us to purchase this and not only get the savings, but also those credits have significant value. So it'll offset the cost of energy here at county government. So good stuff.
Exactly. And we now know what we'll be paying for electricity at the correctional facility for 25 to 40 years, almost to the penny. And
The
of
system's
course,
under warranty.
Yeah.
For most of that.
And most of that's under warranty.
One other question. We think about just the savings, but also I think there's some value to having that system up there just to produce for the correctional facility.
Yeah.
Is there some way in the future we can look at maybe, I don't know, what does battery backup cost? So you could charge batteries.
Yeah.
In the event there would be
Right.
some catastrophic failure in
Yeah.
the grid, that we would, because we do run a 24/7 facility with folks that we really don't want to move around much.
Right. I think that's a good point, Steve. When we looked at it originally a few years ago, the numbers didn't pencil out, but now at the new
I'm
Human
just-
Services Building
yeah.
at Centercrest, we are putting a battery backup in there. So, yeah, I think we should give that maybe about a year worth of time. And if it does appear to really help, I think you're right. We should look at the correctional facility too.
But just from an emergency power generation standpoint, because you don't want to move those people around.
No,
It's just-
no, you don't. Everything there, the lighting, the doors, the everything does
Gotcha.
run off electricity.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just a
No,
thought.
that's a good point. So pencil something in when we have some
Breathing
time, some
Yeah.
breathing room to take a look at what retrofitting that with a battery might look like.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah. Great idea, Steve. All
Because
right.
moving forward,
Yeah.
you could potentially, if the county were to purchase some electric vehicles in the future, you could charge them there.
Yeah.
And that could be another disaster preparedness kind of move to make, to be able to, if there was some kind of natural disaster where there are gasoline shortages,
Yeah.
could have vehicles for the county that were able to be charged up using our own solar array. So,
Good point, too. Great. Any questions from the press on this one?
I'll wait to the end.
Okay, all right, great. So unless there's anything else for the first item, I think we can take a motion on that.
Okay, I'll move to add the contract with Solar Renewable Energy LLC to next week's consent agenda.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to add the contract with Solar Renewable Energy LLC to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor, please do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. And Jonathan has, thank you, Richard, and Jonathan has some change orders from the Human Services Facility.
Yes, so before you is change order for coordination requirements at the Human Services Facility for our electrical contractor, Holstrom Clark, and our HVAC contractor, Ainsworth. These total $35,638.13. These are for the first floor C wing, for rerouting some ductwork and adding some electric in one lease space.
Great. Well, thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate that. I know part of this is that we are now negotiating with some local human services agencies about potentially occupying part of that wing, so we need to make some minor adjustments.
Correct.
So appreciate your help with that, and also appreciate the fact that so far the change orders are within budget.
Correct.
You know, a project of this size, there's going to be change orders. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
Sounds good.
All right, Commissioner Dershowitz.
All good.
All right, we'll take a motion then.
I'll move to approve the change orders with Ainsworth Incorporated and Hallstrom Clark Electric Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the change orders with Ainsworth Inc. and Hallstrom Clark Electric Inc., do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jonathan. And now Carrie is here for criminal justice planning about accepting grant funds.
Yes, good morning. Here to, excuse me, request the board accept grant funds from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for the Burn Justice Assistance Grant totaling $220,833 over a 2-year time period. These funds will be utilized to support the implementation of a new caseworker position embedded within the Public Defender's Office. That person will coordinate services for the clients that they serve. Funds will cover the salary, benefits, training, as well as some supportive services for their clientele. The grant funds would run October 1st of 2024 through September 30th of 2026. We were one of 33 applications that were awarded for $6.8 million under this category of JAG funds. I don't know how many applications they had, but it was far more than 33.
Yes.
So I feel very fortunate to get this funding.
Good grant writing.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Carrie.
thank you.
Wonderful job, you, your staff, and the stakeholders. I know several years ago, we applied for a social worker for the State College Police Department. I think that's been so successful, they're now looking at funding that internally. And I know we've tried for several years now to receive funding for our Public Defender's Office, so glad to see we're successful. And again, thanks to the state legislature for funding these programs. With our unemployment rate running 2.6%, we can use every single able-bodied person out there to keep the economy moving along and caring for seniors and children at the same time instead of possibly being at the correctional facility. So appreciate that.
federal government, too.
And the federal government
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I say thanks to both.
Yep. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
No, just glad that this position will be able to be put in place. I think it'll be really valuable for people who are in the system and need the kind of help that only a social worker can provide, so.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
I'm all good. Just look forward to seeing the end product when it's here.
All right.
I'll move to accept the grant funds from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the grant funds from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Now Chad is here with a contract addendum for, I believe it's design software.
Yes, good morning. I have a contract for consideration for Canva to provide 5 licenses for employees in several departments to use it. This software aids in the development of graphics and flyers and informationals, which there's several departments that create those. It also can be used to help schedule and publish social media posts. And so these licenses are $100 each per year, so a total of $500 for the year.
Great. And thanks for shopping that around, Chad. I believe it is saving us a few $1,000s compared to the other software we were using.
Yes. Yep.
Appreciate that. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
I think that's good. It's a very user-friendly, beginner-friendly kind of
it is.
software, so.
Yeah. Commissioner Dershowitz?
All good.
All right.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I'll move to add the contract addendum with Canva to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add the contract addendum with Canva to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Chad. Moving on to Human Services, we have Julia covering an item for aging.
Good morning. So I come before you with the consider approval of the contract with ResponseLink LLC to provide personal emergency response systems as directed by the Center County Office of Aging to older adults. This is a contract not to exceed $17,000 funded by the state. This is to add another vendor to their complement. So we have other vendors that provide the same service. This one is a little bit less expensive than some of the other ones we're using, and so this gives the Office of Aging an opportunity to use a different agency if they choose to do so.
Well, it sounds great, Julia. I know my mother used systems similar to this for the last decade or so of her life, and sometimes the difference between being able to stay in your own residence or having to move into a facility. So,
Absolutely.
very important.
Yeah.
Commissioner Concepcion?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this forward.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
No, it just allows seniors to stay safely in their homes, and this is, it's a great program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then I'll move to add the contract with ResponseLink LLC to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add the contract with ResponseLink LLC doing business as Alert One to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Julia. All right, and Kathy has 4 items for the Super Department of Mental Health, Intellectual Disability, Early Intervention, Drug, and Alcohol.
Good morning.
Morning.
The first item is the approval of a contract that we have, or that we're looking for with Mental Health Partnerships. We received a training grant from the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to conduct a number of trainings here in Center County. And so this is the first one that we bring to the board. Mental Health Partnerships is willing to do a regional certified peer specialist training for our individuals here in Center County, as well as some folks in our neighboring counties. The contract total is $23,726.28. And this will cover all of the expenses for the trainers to do this 2-week training for our folks. 1 week will be in person, 1 week will be conducted online. We were amazed when we set out to do this training. They can do a maximum of 20 individuals, and within the span of a week, we had 17 applications for the training. If not for having this regional training here locally, folks have to go as far as Harrisburg, Philly, or Pittsburgh to access the training. So this is a great opportunity for our folks, and you can't be a peer specialist without having this training. It's all federal money that we're getting through OMSAS. And so this contract is short-term, just for the time of the training, from November 12th, 2024 through January 31st, 2025.
Great, thanks for covering that, Kathy, and we do appreciate the federal funding for this. And as you mentioned, right off the bat, the class is almost at maximum capacity. Tremendous. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
Yeah, just that we've seen that this peer support model can be really effective, and that there's a lot of places around the state that are using peer support models, and the evidence is pretty strong that these are effective programs and that they can really kind of extend the resources available to people who need support.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
No, I'm all good. This sounds great.
Yeah, Commissioner Concepcion raises a great point. There's a huge shortage of mental health professionals nationwide and most acutely in rural Pennsylvania, and this allows us to extend their efforts with a proven model.
Yep.
So appreciate that. It looks like we could take a motion at this point.
I will move to add the contract with Mental Health Partnerships.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract with Mental Health Partnerships. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. And then you've got 3 more contracts for us.
Yes. 2 of them are contract addenda from the previous fiscal year, and the third is a contract renewal. We have finally received our revenue statement so that we can complete our final fiscal report from last year. So we are wrapping up a few contract addenda to finish up our contract agreements from last year, and finishing up our contract renewals for the new year. The first is a contract addendum number 2 with UPMC Home Healthcare of Central Pennsylvania, doing business as home nursing agency. This will allow additional funding for early intervention services that they have provided in fiscal year 23-24. It only increases their contract by $14, but with early intervention services being an entitlement service, if the service is provided, the service is paid for. So we have to increase their contract by that $14 so that we can pay their last invoice. This brings their contract total to $30,014, and of that, it's all state funding with the county match portion at $1,284, the time period being July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. The second is a contract renewal with Pyramid Healthcare Incorporated to provide drug and alcohol services. They are a longstanding provider for us. They offer medically monitored inpatient withdrawal management, i.e. detox, clinically managed high-intensity residential, i.e. rehab, clinically managed low-intensity residential, what we know as halfway house, case management, and medication-assisted treatment. We estimate this contract total at $45,000. There's a state portion, a federal portion. There may be county money. I doubt it. We typically use state and federal funds that we receive through the Department of Drug and Alcohol programs, and we have lots of state and federal money to do so. The time period for this is July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. The third is another contract addendum for the time period July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 with the Center for Community Resources, which provides supports coordination services for intellectual disabilities. This increases their contract by $1,374 for their final June invoice. This increases their contract to $6,374, and of that, the county match portion is $294.
Great, thanks for covering those, Kathy, and we do appreciate the state and federal funding involved. Commissioner Concepcion?
No questions, but thanks for a thorough explanation.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
No questions. Thank you.
Then I'll move to add the MHID, EI, DNA items 2 through 4 to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add items 2 through 4 for the MHID, EI, DNA items to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thanks again, Kathy, and I see we have Dave lined up from Transportation to cover a couple vehicles that we were talking about. I think it was yesterday at the Veterans Day event at the courthouse.
We did talk briefly about that at the courthouse. Yes, thank you. I asked for consideration of approval of the purchase of a 2024 Police Interceptor utility all-wheel drive vehicle through the CoStars program from Stuckey Ford in Altoona. The amount of that vehicle would be $42,073. And item 2 on there would be consideration of approval of the upfit modifications to that said vehicle for $12,794.82, bringing the grand total to $54,867.82 for the purchase and upfit of the vehicle. Obviously being placed in the Sheriff's Department for various things. I'm pretty sure their plan is to use this vehicle for transports out and about. They're not going to label it, leave it unmarked.
Okay.
It will be equipped otherwise, though, with lights and cage and everything else, if approved. But, and it's nice to say that the proceeds for this vehicle would come from the sale of our vehicles back in October at the auction.
All right.
So that helps as well, hopefully.
Very, very good method of financing that, Dave.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yes, it's a good resource to have and
Yeah.
put right back to good use, yes.
And those vehicles do wear out, so I suspect the sheriff's department's going to be happy
They
to
put
see
a lot
that.
of miles on them, they certainly do. And they need good, reliable vehicles for
Oh,
sure
yes.
for what they
Oh.
do. They've went as far as almost the West Coast, I think, for transports already, since I've been here, yes.
All
So
right.
sometimes it's rather long distance, yes.
Oh, my God, yeah, we don't want a vehicle failing in the middle of Nebraska or something.
No, that's a long ways for a tow truck.
Yeah, yeah. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
Yeah, just thanks for working on finding this vehicle and
Absolutely.
getting it outfitted the way it needs to be.
Yes, my pleasure.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
No, it just sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Then I will move to approve transportation items 1 and 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2 items for transportation. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. And I
Thank
have a
you.
shortish consent agenda. I think we can just take a motion on that.
I'll move to approve this week's consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Moving on to authorities, boards, and commissions. We have 2 resignations, both from the Ag Land Preservation Board, Joseph Homan and Ralph Wieland. They both served from Joseph served from September 1st of 2021 until November 12th of this year, and Ralph served from September 1st of 2023 until November of this year. I believe at this point we'd take a motion.
I'll move to approve the ABC resignations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the ABC resignations. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. Moving on to CNET requests. John has the one that was already on our agenda, and then we've got the one we added.
So 2 separate
2
actions?
separate.
Okay.
We have also Mary's in the audience, in case there's any.
Yes, in case there's any questions. Mary, you want to approach the podium and give us a little background?
I'm Mary Sorensen. I'm with the Center County Historical Society, and I'd like to first just thank you all for all of the work you do and your partnership with being a CNET sponsor of the John H. Ziegler Historic Preservation Awards since 2011. I'm here today to request CNET sponsorship for the Center County Board, from the Center County Board of Commissioners for the awards program being held on January 19th at 3 o'clock at the Pennsylvania Match Factory here in Bellefonte. The Preservation Awards program was originally envisioned 35 years ago by Historical Society board member and many local people's friend, John Ziegler, and it's also the program's namesake. John and his friend, Bob Gruber, would set out across the county and each year to sleuth for worthy projects that deserved recognition for their efforts to preserve Center County's rich history. We're honored to carry on this tradition today with Katie O'Toole and Ford Risley as the program's co-chairs. And I just want to also encourage everyone, you can go to centerhistory.org and go into the John H. Ziegler Historic Preservation Awards webpage and download a nomination form. We're always looking for nominations. And thank you again for your consideration of this sponsorship.
Well, you're welcome, Mary. Thank you for your patience coming here at the end. But I think I've attended most of those Preservation Award ceremonies for the last 8 or 9 years. Always appreciate the interesting perspective on Center County history and very deserving organizations receiving those. Commissioner Concepcion, comments or questions?
Yeah, just this past year was the first one I had attended as a commissioner, and it was really interesting to see, the work that's being done around the community in terms of
It's
both,
amazing.
Physical preservation of historic buildings as well as work to preserve the historical record. So it was a very interesting program. So I'm sure people viewing at home would enjoy being able to see it if they're not able to make it to the event. So.
And the nice thing is that all the videos are on CNET, and so people can go back to them and review them.
Yeah, Commissioner Dershowitz, anything you'd like to add?
I'll talk to you privately later, but I think I have an idea for a nomination. So.
Oh, good. Lobbying already. Excellent. All right, unless there's any questions from the press on that one, all right. Looks like we could take a motion.
I'll move to approve sponsorship of the CNET request from the Center County Historical Society.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the CNET request from the Center County Historical Society. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming. Thanks for everything your organization does. And now we'll move on to the broadcast of our Board of Elections meetings.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve a CNET sponsorship for broadcasting of the Tuesday and Thursday this week election board meetings.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the broadcast of the Center County Board of Elections meetings later today and on Thursday. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. We'll move over to Commissioner Concepcion for the check run.
Okay, today on the check run, what I'd like to recognize is not one check, but a series of checks to, for building rentals to polling places.
yes.
So it requires cooperation and collaboration with many different organizations throughout the community that allow us to use their buildings to, as polling places. And, you know, it's a big part of the election department's work leading up to every election each year to make sure that we're coordinated for all of those locations. And so for many of them, we have rent checks for the rent, but we really are very appreciative of each of those organizations that allows the Center County Elections Department to use those locations as polling places.
Great. Thanks, Hillary.
And with that, I will move to approve the check runs dated November 1st and November 8th.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the check runs dated November 1st and November 8th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. We'll move on to our administrator's report. I think you have two separate ones, John.
Yes, good morning. The first one for consideration is the 2025 Center County meeting schedule. It is holding steady as we've done in previous years by predetermining, for example, when the Board of Commissioners would meet, by identifying Tuesdays and Thursdays as placeholds for meetings. Then we can advertise this list, and then we just need to post any agendas 24 hours prior to the actual meeting date and time. The only difference between this and the previous year is the Criminal Justice Advisory Board calls out specific dates on which they meet. So while it is still in tradition of what they've normally done, we actually call out the specific dates that they will get together. So we are seeking approval of the 2025 county meeting schedule.
Okay.
All right. Any questions from any of the commissioners on that one?
Okay, then I'll move to approve the 2025 county meeting schedule.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2025 county meeting schedule. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And John, you also, I believe, have a third quarter report.
Yes. For those who are not familiar with the process, the Board of Commissioners passed Resolution 2 of 2024, which allows the county administrator to execute any financial documents, purchase orders, invoices, reimbursements, et cetera, not to exceed $30,000 in value, and only in those circumstances where funding for such has been approved and allocated within the county's annual budget. In the event of an emergency, the administrator also has the discretion to authorize expenditures up to and including $100,000 that shall be reported to the commissioners for ratification at the next meeting. Furthermore, Resolution 2 authorizes the administrator to execute any and all documents related to grants after initial resolution authorization by the Board of Commissioners to apply for said grant. Overall, in quarter 3, there were 47 such authorizations performed, with individual monetary values ranging from $149.90 to $30,000, which is the cap. Of the 47 authorizations, 18 were software tech-related services or renewals valued at $140,722.60. 3 items were preventative maintenance or testing related for a total cost of $21,130. 20 items involved human services linkage or service agreements that have a total cost value of $293,984. 2 items were related to rental or lease agreements in the amount of $28,851. And the remainder included 4 legal and professional services items totaling $13,120.70. The grand total of all expenditures authorized by the administrator in quarter 3 of 2024 was $497,808.30.
Great, thanks for covering that, John, appreciate it. Moving on to reports and announcements, we will not have voter registration
Not
reports
this
for
week.
several weeks, a little busy at the moment. For announcements, the Board of Commissioners meeting on Tuesday, November 26th, has been canceled to allow the board to attend the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania Fall Conference. Do we have any executive sessions to report or hold, John?
Not at this time.
Not this time. All right. Moving on to our public meeting schedule, we have a Board of Elections meeting in this room at 4 p.m. today. On Thursday, we have a combined Salary Board and Board of Commissioners meeting at 10, and the continuing budget work sessions at 2. And then on Tuesday, November 19th, Board of Commissioners meeting at 10, Board of Commissioners work session 11, and then Board of Elections meeting at 3 p.m. Questions from the press? Gary?
The solar array at the prison, does it only provide, I flunked 8th grade science, so I'm not real good at
Yeah.
power or energy for the prison, or is it provided for other county facilities?
That is a very good question. From a theoretical standpoint, since that array is slightly overproducing, the power can be allocated to other county facilities within 2 miles as the crow flies, and thankfully for us, the Willowbank building is within 2 miles by air from the correctional facility. So the overproduction of that array is covering some portion of the Willowbank building's electricity.
Does the purchase of the array have anything to do or related at all with the proposed regional solar purchase agreement?
Not at all. That was in the original documents that were signed almost 6 years ago. They gave all their customers the option that at the end of the grant period, you could either continue to lease the remaining value of the array from the company, or you could give them an upfront sum to buy them out, and financially, it's just working out much better for us to do the upfront sum.
Is the company involved at all with the new agreement? In other words, is the company selling that array, are they involved with the proposed solar purchasing agreement at all?
I'll check with John. I don't think so.
Are you talking about the SPPA or just?
The company that you're leasing or buying the prison facility, are they, yes, the upcoming regional, they're involved, okay.
They're not related at all to
And you
that?
have a separate array at the Human Services Building?
Yes, we're putting one in on the roof. It's going to tie into a modern battery in the building, and that system alone ended up saving us $1 million on the backup generator. We could get a small one instead of a medium-sized one.
Provide power for that facility.
Yeah, we're estimating, what is it, 40 or 50%?
50%.
50% of the electricity used in the building will be provided by the solar array and battery in the building.
That's by SRE as well.
And that's by the same company that we worked with up at the correctional facility.
Election board meeting today,
Yes.
final board meeting expected next week?
Next Tuesday would be the official certification meeting.
Has there been any other surprises or?
Not really, just working through the provisional ballots. There's a lot of them. It takes a while.
The surprise will occur on Thursday if indeed we have to do a recount from the federal senatorial race. That's a major project that we would have to achieve before the 26th of November, so stay tuned.
Yeah, we're
That
already,
would be a cost that the state would pay, or is the county responsible for that?
I think the state does reimburse us some, but ultimately the amount of energy that it requires from us that's gonna be on us, so.
When you have a recount like that, you can specifically look at the one race, you're not counting,
Yes.
recounting the entire, you're just
No,
counting.
we'll recount that one race.
but we do have to feed well over 80,000 ballots back through the equipment, I believe, Steve and Amber, it has to go on a different piece of equipment
Yes.
than it was originally scanned on, which is why we have 3 different levels of equipment from our hardware vendor.
But we've also, I think, ordered, or at least reserved,
Yes.
some of the 850, they call them the 850 models, which are the high-speed readers, in the event that on Thursday, we are given the green light to go ahead and do that. So, but this is a mandated recount, so if it's within 0.5% statewide, so we really don't have much conversation about whether we are going to do it. It's a
Yeah.
matter how, efficiently we can do it, so.
That's all I have, thank you.
Great, thank you, Gary. Seeing no other press here, I think we could take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn at 10:57. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, everyone, for coming.